If everything you saw is true, the end of the world is far closer than we'd like.
In the future, we get attacked by a warrior race called the Kree.
When will this Kree invasion take place, Clint?
Oh, no.
Clint! Don't die on me.
Yeah.
Oh, we were heroes, but we died as fools.
Where's Nick Fury? Some things never change. Who's the murder hobo? Katie?
Clint?
I'm the strongest. You never ventured beyond the store. You coward.
Yeah, it's not one of those fun apocalypses.
Oh my god. Here, boy!
Clint!
All right. Hey everyone. How's it going?
Hey everybody.
How's it going?
Can you guys
Hello.
hear us? First off, first order of business, we haven't had this many people on a stream in a while, so just want to make sure you guys can hear all four of us. Soon to be 5.
I know. Pushing the envelope of streaming.
Exactly. That's just what we like to do, you know, just try and see how much my desktop can handle, and so far, it's been going pretty good. Streamer kit, I know. Do you guys enjoy the Hawkeye-ness? The starting screen, the border, we got it all. We're gonna put out the streamer kit in a few days before Hawkeye releases for you guys to use if you want to use it. But I like it a lot. I'm sure you guys like it too. All right. So we got a lot to talk about today. Got some new faces for you guys too. You know Phil, you know me, and you might know Scott, but this might be the first time you're seeing Scott, I think.
Yep.
So, Scott, do you want to do a little intro?
Yeah. So I'm one of the combat designers on Marvel's Avengers. So make all the heroes do cool stuff.
Nice. And we'll talk to Scott about just Hawkeye and combat and everything he's going to go through with it. Go through with us with it. Now we have AJ. AJ, you want to do a little introduction?
Sure. Hello. I'm AJ Gartmeyer. I am one of the animators on the Avengers project. Specifically, I work on the pet team with Swalters, Scott there, and we are responsible for all the heroes that you play.
Awesome. We're going to talk to AJ about animation, some behind the scenes stuff. Any questions about animation overall you guys have for Scott on the combat side and AJ on the animation side, let us know. I've seen Scott's beautiful face in the pro tips videos, says Riffian. That is true.
I can't keep track of all this chat, but yeah.
It is a lot of chat. We got some moderators in chat. I think I see Sonic and Calix, and I think Layla's going to be in there too. And then we
was on time, by the way. It's worth mentioning. He didn't show up late.
Oh, he's on. You're late, Calix?
No, this dude was on time.
I was gonna give it up.
I'm just pointing out that he was here early.
Oh, that's true. Calix is amazing. He's always here early. We are gonna have Nicole joining us later. She has like a meeting right now, so she'll join us later to talk about narrative. But for now, you guys are stuck with us for. Let's actually just get to it. You guys ready to see some Hawkeye gameplay? This is all on PS5, by the way, as well. All right. So, here I am. Here's Hawkeye. Before we start, we're gonna hover over all the skills, but an overall inspiration thing from you, Scott. What was your inspiration in building Hawkeye's kit?
So we pulled from a lot of different sources. You know, we've talked about it, especially in the narrative side of things, of the Matt Fraction run, My Life as a Weapon, and stuff like that. But we just really wanted to make sure that, you know, Hawkeye was representative of what you'd expect, whether you're an MCU fan or a comic fan, or whether you watch the Saturday morning cartoons, or played him in other games. So we wanted to make sure his bow was obviously center stage, and then we brought in obviously the sword combat. A lot of that is inspired from his period as Ronin. So you can see that Phil's sort of doing his light combos. Similar to Kate, he's got the ability to swap to bow shots if you hold down light or heavy attack. We definitely tried to push the bow usage even more on Hawkeye compared to Kate. So he's got a even larger arsenal of arrows to use, and fun and interesting ways that those kind of combo together. So
Nice. So let's just go into his skills and let's discuss each and every single one of them. So like you said, his light skills, there's combos to it, but there's also arrows attached to it. So implosion arrow.
yeah, so the implosion arrow is sort of a quick way, if you're in melee combat, to sort of gain some space and draw enemies into a cluster. There's a lot of ways that he can capitalize on that, whether that's switching back to sword combat or using some of his other arrows in his arsenal. So it's just think of it as a mini version of Kate Singularity. It's just meant to draw in some of the smaller enemies towards a single focus point.
Nice. And then ascending slash.
So a lot of the other light skills are traversal related or meant to set up interesting sort of reactions for combos. A lot of them either play into comboing for additional melee attacks. So the ascending slash, for example, launches the enemy, takes them off their feet for some of the weaker enemies. So you can sort of juggle them and bounce them around. You can switch to the arrows at that point too. So using those to attack enemies that are sort of weakened, you can juggle them with the range combat as well.
Nice. And you can do the implosion arrows in the air as well for that.
Yep.
Split shot arrow.
So split shot arrow was one that we were looking at some interesting ideas for some of his arrows, and we've seen this in some of the comics and in some of the movie references, where he can fire an arrow and have it split into multiple projectiles. So this one basically fires out, and if you don't have a melee target or like a melee lock, so you don't click in on the sticks or whatever, each one will sort of go to a different target, but you can focus them in on a single target if you lock onto them first. And it's mostly just a way to break through, block on some enemies, or just sort of affect a large crowd. The air version of that actually fires two arrows, so you get sort of increased number of projectiles.
Nice. And this is one of my favorites, bag of tricks.
Yeah, so early on, I really wanted to showcase sort of a wide arsenal of arrows in ways that weren't just switching back and forth on the D-pad or switching to the range stuff. So for that, we had follow-up moves that basically alternated between other arrows in this kit. So after doing the split shot to hit enemies, he fires the tripwire arrow, which sort of knocks them on the ground, and then he fires a charged pulsar arrow, which creates a big explosion on impact, and then he fires just a massive amount of split shot arrows at the end. So it's really good for crowd control.
Nice. And then this is just like some more sword skills from his heavy, right? Oh, this
Yeah, so most of those, there's the two traversals, the evade and the sprint. Those are meant to be, again, more sword focused. Either breaking through guard or doing increased damage. And so like the unstoppable blade will spin them around, so you can sort of capitalize and get the backstab or the increased crit chance from behind. But the suspension arrow is one that we again wanted to create arrows being interplayed throughout his melee combo, and so this is his heavy combo finisher, chained off the light attack, and this one will launch enemies up into the air and sort of juggle them in the air. So in the little tip video there, those are frenzies, so they're a little bit weaker, but you can juggle like some of the riot bots with the shields and stuff like that, and so that'll that'll actually let you attack them with arrows sort of while they're suspended.
I love this one. This is super fun to see in actual combat and everything.
That is really fun.
Yeah, and so this is the air version of the split shot, so it fires two of the arrows for increased projectiles.
Nice. And then this is all a bunch of arrow types, basically. So can you explain to us cluster arrows and all of its upgrades?
Yeah, so like Kate, he has 3 different arrows that he can, aim and shoot with, and you can swap between those on the D-pad. Cluster arrows are one arrow type. We wanted these to be heavy hitting, arrows that would stagger the target or knock them back a little bit, similar to something that you would actually hit, like his sword heavy attacks, for example. So they're kind of slow firing. They're very narrow focused. They're meant to be, used on a single target. Whereas the tripwire shot sort of is the charged version. And like a lot of our ranged power attacks, we, up the damage, up the impact, we use those to break through shields. And this version, it's specifically meant to either knock down or push back enemies. So, for the guys with the shields, right, you're just going to sort of break their guard. But if there's anyone that isn't defending against it, you'll sort of knock them onto their, off their feet. And then for some of the stronger enemies, it'll just sort of stagger and push them back a little bit. But it has a wider arc, which you can, upgrade through some of the other skills.
Nice. And then razor arrows are perfect draw.
Yeah, so this is basically the same as Kate. We wanted to have that through line between the 2 archers of, a standard arrow and the perfect draw shot to sort of emphasize the archer skill. So, you have a 3-shot combo that you can fire them pretty quickly, but if you measure your shot and release at the right time, you get the damage and the impact bonus and the increased crit chance. And you can see that with the sort of indicator on the reticle there on when to release. And then for the charged version of that, we did alternate from that, actually. So while Kate has the ability to fire a disruptor arrow, which increases crit chance on the target, we went with a different skill for Hawkeye, which is Deadeye. It's not a different arrow so much as it's more of an innate ability that he has to focus and pinpoint his shot on a target. And so as he, aims at the target, once he's got that fully drawn, he builds up a charge level on the target with the intent of he's going to get that perfect shot. So each charge level that you build up on the target will increase the damage. It'll increase the reaction. So if you really focus in on that target, you can knock them off their feet and send them flying, or it can be as quick as just a quick guard break. So.
Nice. And you really feel this one with the PS5 haptics, by the way.
Yeah.
It actually feels like you're drawing a bow for that.
Yeah.
And those are arrows.
Yeah. So our not necessarily last arrow type, but the third option on the wheel there is the pulsar arrows. And so we wanted an explosive arrow, but we didn't want it to be just the same thing as Kate. And so we looked at ways that we can make that feel different and unique. And for that, it was using the, Stark Text pulsar energy explosions. And so when you fire the arrow, it can build up a charge of energy over time. And that's indicated by the blinking light on the arrow. So by default, it's, it starts off as blue and then it'll go to yellow. And then once you get the final upgrade, you can have it go to red. And each time it hits a different tier, you can remote trigger that detonation and you'll get a bigger explosion. Unlike Kate's, you can't shoot it to trigger it. So you do have to fire the arrow and then manually trigger the detonation. Or there's a timeout on it that'll eventually trigger. But and then we have an upgrade for it that allows it to pin targets. So if you really just want to stick a target to a wall or a floor or whatever, you can do that, and then that arrow will just kind of build up, and then you can either leave it and it'll blow up on its own, or you can trigger it. These are really good if you want to either quickly break through shields, or if you want to juggle the target. You can actually use that to sort of open them up and then switch to other arrows, or hit them with one of those and then launch them in the air and then remote detonate that while they're in the air to sort of keep them in the air and suspended. So.
Nice. I will try to do that. So his intrinsics, there's a lot going on with it, but there's a few arrow types. Can you just talk about all these at kind of at once, I guess?
Yeah, so his intrinsic ability, focuses on his sort of senses for the environment and being able to quickly dodge enemies. So that's sort of how he blocks, is he'll dodge attacks and sort of sidestep them. But if you time it correctly, you'll sort of get a quick draw shot there. It's just a normal arrow, but it's meant to sort of stagger and open the enemy up. You can follow that up with a disruptor arrow. So that's an arrow we saw in Kate's kit. He sort of physically jams the arrow in to debuff the target. And then he's got a rocket arrow as another follow-up, which that one's the bottom on the list there. And that one basically just attaches a rocket, right? Or it's an arrow that attaches a rocket to the target that will sort of send them and push them back. And so you can use that to create distance and push back enemies that might be a little bit tougher if you don't want to engage with melee. And then for its intrinsic attacks, we sort of have two arrows. One of them is the grapple arrow, which you see inside his traversal. We use that as an offensive capability. So, that's the R2 and triangle, or R2 and heavy attack. And that just launches the grapple arrow and quickly reels into the target, where he can then juggle the target in the air. So he's got a follow-up upgrade to that. And then his light intrinsic attack is the boomerang arrow. So if you're a fan of the comics, you might recognize this one. He there's actually a whole segment with him and Kate, and he's sort of trying to convince Kate that the boomerang arrow is the best arrow because it comes back.
Respects it, basically.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to incorporate that into his moveset. So, when you fire that arrow, it goes out and it comes back. And it'll hit one target for sure. It can hit other ones if it's in its path. It doesn't specifically seek out to do that, but there is an upgrade specifically for timing the second shot at the right time. So as soon as you catch the arrow, if you trigger it again, he fires out an arrow that will actually seek out multiple targets. Kind of like Cap's shield kick, if you're familiar with that one. Mm-hmm. It's just another one of those, and he does it with style, right? He's not looking at the shot.
Oh, yeah, love it.
He's basically like, I know where all the targets are. I have perfect mastery over the shot. I'm gonna fire it, and it's just gonna hit a bunch of targets.
Classic Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's move on to his heroics, which are really cool. Recovery arrow.
Yep. So again, we definitely won't double down on the arrows here. So his support heroic is the recovery arrow. It basically fires down an arrow that's filled with nanites. Those nanites or nanobots will go out and sort of heal and recover willpower on the heroes. And you can upgrade that to increase the duration, remove and prevent status effects. And then there are a few other options to either debuff the enemies or make it so they trigger more or have a higher chance of triggering or dropping orbs when you kill them. So heroic orbs, intrinsic orbs, that sort of thing.
So it's a really good support skill for people that are looking for more like healing, basically.
Yeah, especially if you're playing a mission with a lot of enemies that trigger status effects. So like if you're going to the Siberia, for example, and everyone, you're constantly getting frozen, right? If he fires that down, it'll instantly break everyone out of frozen. It'll prevent that status from being built up on the heroes. So it's a really good one to use if you're holding down a point or just dealing with anything like that.
Krokono asks if you can aim this recovery arrow at a player. The answer is no, right?
No. Yeah, that one is meant to be area of effect, so you really want to position yourself for optimal use. We played around with some of the different aiming options for some of these, and some of them worked better than others. For this one, we wanted positioning to be kind of key. The next up is the Nightstorm arrow. That's our assault heroic, and this is kind of a classic rain of arrows with a bit of a twist. So the basic version sort of fires out explosive projectiles that will bounce and hit targets. But the real area of where this shines is sort of that specialization tree on the left there. So it's Nightstorm arrows for a reason. This one is very focused on area control and element and status effects. So he's got 3 different options for this. The first is Ion Surge, which does shock damage. It actually rains down like bolts of lightning, and those will actually trigger a secondary hit on the ground. So this one's sort of the best version for damage in terms of DPS. He's got Hailstorm, which is cryo based. So this one actually leaves behind sort of a cryo hazard on the ground, like it's a cloud of frost that you'll see as the projectiles rain down. So this is really good for slowing enemies and just damaging them that way. And then the last one is, I believe it's called Fire Devil.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so this one we looked for an option that was sort of like a nuke, just fire and forget. And this one creates that fire tornado, and it actually launches and juggles the enemies up into the air. So you can use that to sort of push enemies up, and then you can pick them off while they're getting bounced around.
Nice. And then this other specialization is it increases the size and things like that, right?
Yeah, there's some modifiers on that. So it's stuff that increases the size of it, so you can either affect a larger area or increases the duration. So you can, if you just want to lock down a smaller target area for longer, you can use that. And then this heroic is also really good for building or building up heroic charge in general. So enemies defeated by it will have a chance to drop heroic orbs. So it's really good if you actually want to use this to sort of charge up your other heroics. You want to sort of place that for the most optimal effect. And those drop also for your allies. So you can use it kind of in a support function too.
And last but not least, his ultimate heroic.
Yeah, so the Hunter's Arrow is sort of that fire and forget AI tracking arrow. So this is, heavily tech-based, but he basically fires this out and it just seeks targets. And it does a cool, meandering trail while it looks for targets. Most of the upgrades are based on, getting increased number of hits. We have a few specialization options. So the Twin Talons, basically you get to shoot 2 of them. They have shock damage. So it's sort of like the ultimate battlefield control of like if you just want to send those out and disrupt a bunch of targets. That's really the way to go. We have
Dive Bomb?
Yeah, the Dive Bomb. So the Dive Bomb one will attach an explosive charge. And so you can see that little indicator on the targets. And those can be triggered. It's we call it an impact charge. So any hit will trigger that. So you can punch them, you can shoot them. It doesn't have to be you, it could be your allies. And that explosion just sort of launches them. So it's another good way to extend the combo and keep them sort of juggled in the air. The Hunter's Arrow also does try and hit other targets when it goes out. So it will try and avoid hitting the same target if there's another target it can hit. And that just means that if there's a few number, you're going to sort of hit the same ones, and that'll actually trigger the explosion. So you can see it sort of build up damage that way. But Marked Prey is basically changes the functionality for that. So it doesn't really change what the arrow does so much as it lets you focus in on a target. So if you really want to use this against bosses, for example, you want to select this option, because if you aim at the boss or if you're attacking with melee or ranged attacks, it'll try and prioritize that single target as opposed to trying to go for other targets. So that's the best way to like focus your damage. I don't think the tip video shows it, but yeah, you can just aim with your bow. You don't even have to shoot, and it'll just kind of keep going to that same target.
Nice. So that's like a good overview of all the skills. We're not gonna get into the mastery, guys. That's for you guys to explore. Less than a week, not very far away. But yeah, I'm gonna start playing now. Phil, I'm gonna let you take it from here because I have a hard time talking and playing at the same time. You can talk to Scott, talk to AJ.
So where are you taking us, Andy?
I'm going to the harm room.
We're going to harm room, yeah. You take us elsewhere after.
I am.
Show some cool stuff.
I am. It's gonna be
a little wasteland, so we can showcase some of that stuff. I'm sorry, I know my voice is low, guys. I'm trying to fix it, and it's not happening. I'll try to just talk a lot louder.
Sometimes I can barely hear you, but I'm gonna just continue saying like, yes, sure, Phil, exactly.
Andy, I think they exploded your screens on the stream. for a little cropping of all of our pictures.
Did it really? Oh no!
We had Nicole join us. So
Oh, we have
you're gonna
Nicole
have to-
join us. Okay. Hi, Nicole. How are you? Let me. There we go.
About that, I was just gonna kind of hear until it was my time.
There you go, Nicole. You ruined everything.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, nobody wants to see our faces anyway.
No, we can just remove that. So.
So, all right. Well, let's talk about some of this stuff. We heard a lot about the gameplay from Scott, but we have AJ, the legend. AJ, dude, like inspiration for Hawkeye, like mocap, all the fun stuff. Like, what did you guys do? Tell me all the deets.
All the deets. Oh man. I mean, you got to take it from like the top down because we had Kate first, and then you come out with Hawkeye. So we got two archers essentially, right? And both with swords. So there's obviously similarities there, but yeah, you know, we had to sit there and really figure out how to make them different. So when it came to mocap specifically, it was obviously a different actor because we hire, you know, professional stunt actors to come in. And hold on one sec. Let me say bye to my kid. Come here a sec.
Aw.
Bye.
Bye.
Have fun.
Bye.
They can't
Bye,
see me.
AJ's
Have fun.
kid.
But yeah, we had to go. We got a different actor, so obviously it feels different. And then yeah, I mean, it just comes down to what we want to do with the attacks and all that kind of stuff. But it's finding a solid actor who can kind of, I think, hold that tone of the character, so to speak. And then we obviously do a lot of work on our end where we blend keyframing into our mocap animation because mocap in a melee game isn't going to feel as responsive as you would want it to. So
Like for people that are playing, like what's the big differences between Clint and Kate? Like what are they going to see like that you guys actually went like, okay, this needs to feel different.
right. So I think with Clint or with Hawkeye, sorry, I never know what to call him. You're going to see a more trained individual. He's more controlled, surgical. I think is a really good word for him. Like Kate gets a little wild with her swings, like going one-handed and stuff, and I think that's cool to fit her. It also lends itself to wide arcs, but like Clint still has arcs, but they're more forward. There's more power there. So you feel that when you play him. It's kind of like leaning into Kenjutsu, I believe, is the technique that we kind of use there. And Ben Stanton, one of our principal animators, was really big into that. Like, let's try and push this here to create a style difference between their two sword techniques specifically.
Yeah, that's all, and we can see it, right? Like when he's doing his strikes, he's holding his sword with two hands. It definitely looks more deliberate, and it's those small details I think that are really key in making the characters feel different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting also, none of the animations that you see on Hawkeye were used for Kate. There's literally none. So while obviously there's similarities, so people will say, which is obvious, like, oh, it's a clone or it's this or that. It is not. I mean, they both have bows, they have swords. So there's similarities there. Can't get away from that. But functionally and when you're playing them, they feel way different. And to Scott's previous point, his array of arrows is crazy. So it's different.
I mean, we've seen it. I mean, fire, ice, lightning. I mean,
Exactly.
The seeking arrow. I mean, it definitely feels different, and it's certainly tricky when you're doing like two archers back to back, right? So
Exactly.
He's done a great job of
I think it's also worth mentioning his intrinsic, right? Like Kate's all about blinking and teleporting, which is super dope, and we all love it. Hawkeye, he doesn't get to blink, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but you know, I know. Okay, not everyone can blink.
Reversal, Andy. Show him Hawkeye.
But we leaned into the bow more for his intrinsic, so it's like Scott said, man. I mean, keep in mind, Scott and I work together every day, so we'll echo the same things, but we really leaned into the bow. Like, that's what he's all about. Let's see what we can do with this.
Yeah, that's Clint's grapple.
Yeah, the grapple's a lot of fun, actually.
Alright, Andy. Heroics. There you
I'm going.
Andy, you're destroying everything.
You know what? That's my thing. I just like to destroy things, you know. Oh.
But yeah, the entire combat team. I think we're a very iterative team. I'm sure Scott can speak to this as well. But it's very, I mean, we have plans. Obviously, we have to do that. But there's a very iterative and organic process to finding like what feels right, what works where. And that's like the most fun of the whole thing. It's just bouncing off Scott bouncing off of me, and just seamless sticks essentially.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to read chat and respond to a few questions.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No. With the combat, each time we make a hero, you know, we are obviously building on a foundation that's kind of similar. So it's not completely different when you go between heroes, right? You know, light attack is still going to be light attack. That sort of thing. But yeah, we definitely want to showcase the hero's, you know, character that people expect in a lot of their moveset, and find, you know, ways to differentiate and make each one feel unique. And that includes a lot of iteration. You know, sometimes we'll have certain ideas and we'll play with it. Like, I think someone had mentioned, like, can you aim the support heroic? It's like we tried a version of that, and you know, there were times where that was good, and other times where that just didn't feel that great, because like you were shooting it over to one person, like, you know, or you could miss and it could go somewhere where you didn't want it to go, you know, and with the version that we have right now, like, obviously that just worked and played better than the AIM version, especially with the upgrades that it has.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's also in complete transparency. I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, but I'm doing it anyways. I don't care. Hawkeye was originally slated to be like a complete clone, like literally of Kate, a complete clone. Which, after we thought about that for more than a second, we're like, that's a disservice to this character. It's a disservice to our players, obviously. So I think it's those type of philosophies as we move forward, just really acknowledging the heroes, the characters, what they mean to everybody, and making sure that we're proud of them every time we release one.
Nicole, people are asking if we're ever going to add the bios for the heroes.
Sorry, what was that, Phil?
They want to know if we're going to add bios for the heroes.
Bios?
Yeah. Yeah, background.
Like in-game bios, we don't have specific bios, but we do have document sets for each of the heroes. So you'll see, like with Kate, we released a new document set for her that gives you a little bit more information about what she was up to after 8A and before we catch up to her in the Taking Aim story. Flint has that as well. So that's kind of our placeholder instead of bios. It gives you a little bit more of their background and insight that, you know, wouldn't really fit into the Future Imperfect campaign itself. But hopefully you guys like those. But we can consider bios as well.
Oh, is Phil addressing his microphone?
Is he?
He couldn't say. He's not dealing with it
really
anymore.
hard and tell if he's talking.
Sometimes I can't hear Phil. I don't know if he's talking sometimes.
Might be talking. I don't know.
Okay, can you guys hear me better now?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow! Whoa!
It's your beautiful voice.
Bam! I am back.
You're back. How does it feel to be back?
Well, I was trying to be all fancy with my other microphone, but apparently I have no idea what I'm doing as usual. You know, if you are familiar with microphones and or streaming, please come to my house. No, don't come to my house. I regret what I said.
Go to Phil's house, everyone. He wants
sure
it.
About that, Phil? And I just want to give all of you guys just props for how cool Hawkeye is, because I'm even watching him now and I'm just itching to play him again.
He's so fun. Scott, actually, we didn't really talk about this, but all of the combat was basically retuned for the haptic feedback on PS5, right?
Yeah, so one of our other combat designers has been going through Vince. He's really big on the feedback and haptics. So he's been going in and tuning it to make all the different weapons feel different, not just for Hawkeye, but for Kate, for Iron Man, for Widow, pretty much the whole roster. To make when you swap between weapons on the D-pad, to make those feel different, to make pistols feel different from repulsors, that sort of thing. So we're definitely looking to make sure that we'll take full advantage of the haptic feedback in the new PS5 controller.
Nice. Since we have Nicole here, actually, and we're going to go to the future wastelands, everyone. If we're no spoilers, we're not playing the actual operation. We don't want to do that. We want you guys to explore that yourself. But we are still going to the future wastelands to just...
Well, are we sure that people want to see the wasteland,
actually,
though?
I
was pitching that, but I mean, maybe nobody wants to see wastelands. Do you guys want to see wastelands at all? Are you interested in that stuff?
Yeah. Do you want to go, or do you want to explore it yourself? This is an honest question.
Or should we go back to the same harm room we've been in? That showcases absolutely nothing new.
You really sold that.
It's a question, AJ. It's an honest
question.
Look, it's an honest question.
Most people are saying yes. Some people are saying no, though. But if you don't want to see it, avert your eyes, because we are gonna go.
Because this is happening.
Yeah.
This is in slow mode. Oh my word.
Just minimize the window and still listen to our voices.
I think it's already in slow mode. Yeah, our chat's already in slow mode.
So,
go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, we're going to show you a threat sector. So this is one of the farmable levels that you're going to have with the Clint release. And, no spoilers, but you can read the description if you're really into it. It's pretty neat. I mean, it showcases a new biome. So let's take a look.
And we're going into the future wastelands, which is a huge part of the narrative. Let's talk to Nicole about the narrative.
Spoil so many things.
I'll talk about it, but without talking about it.
There we go. I think that's the best way to do it.
No, I meant in the wasteland.
Oh. If you guys care about spoiler, I mean,
there's a writer Keanu is telling us, I cry inside.
Look at that background.
So, Phil, how about you talk to Nicole about the narrative a little bit?
Okay, yeah, because we have to make this not spoilery. We're already probably not. Look, just to be legit, we're probably not supposed to even be in this level.
Probably not.
But this is happening anyways. We peer pressured Andy into doing it. So for Andy's bosses, this is my fault. And for the rest of you, this is my fault. Wink, wink. Okay, seriously though, some of the small touches we did in here, it's like we made the enemies look different. Not that they're different enemies, because it's the same one. I know we need to add more, and we are doing it. But Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about what we did different for the enemies, just to give them some flavor here?
Yeah, so in the least spoilery way I can figure out to talk about this. Basically, what we're seeing is future after the events that we saw in the end of Taken Fate. So when we saw the upcoming Kree invasion, this is after that.
Would it be fair to say that invasion went poorly for people?
It didn't go well.
It did not. Hence the wasteland. So, but I mean, you're gonna be seeing remnants of aim, remnants of shield. We lost. That fight did not go well. So
yes, it's all kind of the aim bots are just kind of carrying out old protocols, and they're gonna keep fighting you, but they're not really given any new orders.
So this facility here, for example, it's all busted on the outside, but if Andy manages to get in and not die, we'll see it's actually still relatively intact. So those AIM robots are basically just, as Nicole mentioned, they're defending the area, but there's really nothing of strategic value other than what the Avengers are coming to get here, which is, it's a little spoilery, but they're looking for some data on the Kree, and again, we'll go into more details about how that fits into the whole pack. But there's obviously a vested interest in learning from this imperfect future and preparing for it in the present.
Yeah, I mean, we can even just like give an overview of like what happened from. Sorry, when I'm talking, I just run around in circles. That's what I do. Like, what happened from Kate's operation till here, Nicole? Like, what are the important parts that people should, like think about when they're starting this operation?
Go up,
So
Andy.
basically, there's not a ton of time that passes in between the two. They really are like a double feature. So at the end of Kate, we saw through the time bridge, the future Kree invasion that Monica was trying to stop and Fury was trying to stop. And then, we finally have Clint back, and there's that scene in the common area where they're all talking and Clint's telling them what he saw, saying that basically their goal now is to prepare for this future Kree invasion and make sure that they are ready for it. And then right after that, he passes out. And then, in the time after that, before we start Future Imperfect, Clint has been in sort of tachyon-induced coma. So you'll see, if you go visit Clint, actually right now, if you go visit him in the mirror, you'll see these kind of tachyon glitches around him. And then Future Imperfect picks up right there. So I'll show you exactly what happened after Clint went into his coma.
Nice.
Two questions we're getting. Hey Scott, can you just briefly tell people about what we're doing for adaptive triggers on PS5?
Yeah, I tried to reply in chat, but obviously they're going by so fast.
Totally fast.
Do it live.
So we use the adaptive triggers as part of that haptic feedback for how different weapons and abilities feel. There's also an option to adjust the strength or sensitivity of that stuff, so you can make sure it's still comfortable for you to use. If it's it's an accessibility option, right? So if it's not to your liking or if it's too strong, you can adjust to fit your needs.
It feels really good. Like, it actually feels like I'm not even just saying that. It feels like I'm drawing a bow.
Yeah, we use the triggers to try and simulate some of that stuff. So getting the feel of the gun pulls on the triggers, right? Or drawing the string back. So we try and use that as best we can to try and simulate some of that stuff, and then just also make each sort of option feel a bit unique and different. So
yeah, like when I'm drawing the bow, it like vibrates when it's all the way drawn like that. So it actually feels like it. I love it.
What was your other question, Phil?
I feel like the other question was for Nicole. I'm trying to find.
I am seeing one thing in the comments a lot, which is people referring to Hulk's jump and how they would like him to pounce across the entire level. I hear that feedback. I do. I think it's something we have to think about. We have metrics in our game, and things get a little interesting, but I hear the idea, and I see where it's coming from. So your voice is heard. Trust me.
Nicole, what was your favorite part about, the team's favorite part about, like, writing the Future Imperfect storyline?
Without spoilers.
Without spoilers!
I mean, I think
we're asking
Hawkeye himself. You guys you're just messing with me. I think Hawkeye himself is really fun. Just a fun character, and his voice is really entertaining. Keanu over at Nixie's, he wrote a lot of Clint. And for me, it was just really fun getting the script back and laughing at all of his awesome jokes.
Nice. And he has elevator banter, right?
Yes, he does. It is my favorite, but I won't spoil what it is. I'll let you guys experience it for yourselves.
Everyone loves the elevator banter.
We love writing it. It's a lot of fun.
All right, Nicole. Riffian wants to know if you're going to explain why Clint suddenly has hair and band-aids.
Oh, things get weird with time travel.
I know, right? Like, some days you have hair, some days you don't.
And you're like, when did my hair grow back? How long have I been asleep?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we've all experienced time travel before, you know, like every single one of us. So we just, you guys understand.
I mean, I know, you know, just my hair grew in time travel of lockdown.
Look, it's a genuine Kree eyeball.
I saw a question before that asks about Lucky's role in the story. I feel like that's kind of spoilery, but is there anything that's super not spoilery?
The thing that you already spoiled before
I know.
in previous videos.
I know, I spoiled that, but
Lucky is here. He's adorable. You can pet him. I think we've said that before.
we did, yeah. Oh wait, where am I going?
He's important.
Where am I going? There we go.
Nicole may not want to hang out with us after this.
I know. Hey, Nicole, can you talk to us about your job without talking to us about your job?
You tell me about the story, but don't tell me.
When you write things, you use letters, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's safe.
But what was the, without spoiling again, what was like the most challenging thing about writing Clint and the narrative around him?
I mean, I think it's always tricky with time travel. I mean, I joke about it, but you know, dealing with different timelines is always narratively difficult. But I think with Clint, I mean, he's a lot more straightforward. I'm trying not to spoil anything.
I know.
He has a very clear goal once he gets into the wasteland, and so I think that made it feel very driven and focused. Other than that, the most difficult thing, I think, just trying to get that relationship between Kate and Clint right. We put a lot of work into that, and I think the way Keanu has written him is spot on. I think it all turned out really well.
I just wall climbed. Yeah, Clint can wall climb everyone.
Yeah, so you know, obviously, like I said, we pulled inspiration from his time as Ronin. So he's very agile. He can wall run, and he can chain that with his grapple arrows to really get around. So.
Yeah, we missed that in the harm room thing, but there we go.
I wasn't sure if Scott was going to drop that or not, but there you go.
Part of me wanted it to be a surprise, but then I just did it right there, and I was like, oh well. There
All
it is.
good.
On the fly. On the fly.
Your instincts took over.
My instinct. I was like, I want to show him the wall run. Here we go.
Oh, look up in here, Andy.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, don't die, but
Oh, yeah.
that's so cool.
Okay, I'm looking up.
Yeah.
Oh,
look at the thing.
Yeah, let me get a better view of it. Close your eyes if you don't want spoilers, everyone. I know a lot of people want to explore this on their own, but oh, that's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
Phil, Nicole, do you guys like? Oh, I'm about to lose. Do you guys work together on like building a narrative and building a war zone out? I know you guys do, but like, is that something that you guys always think about when building out a war zone?
For me, it was a really tight collaboration between design and narrative. I know Keanu worked a lot with the designers and the artists to make sure that we were telling, you know, a story through both the environment and the dialogue. So I think especially in these, there's a lot of environmental storytelling going on, and you can kind of piece together what happened.
Yeah, and that mission fits more cohesively with everything else that's going on, right? So it's the future imperfect, like we have an opportunity to go there and actually get something that the factions care about in the present. So rather than just say, you know, hey, go here and beat up some robots, there's actually a bit of a backstory to why you're here and what you're getting out of that. So that's something that we're trying to do a lot more of with the content that we're building, so that you understand how that content fits in sort of like the events of what's going on in different releases.
I don't know how you guys keep up with chat. going so fast.
Some people asked, yes, the narrator in this mission is Roy instead of Jarvis.
Spoilers.
No.
What?
It was on there. It was
They
on the
can't
screen.
hear, I mean, they can hear him. I mean, it shows his name. He's like, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna get in trouble for a lot of other things. That will not be one of them.
No. Oh, this one was. Oh. This one was. I cut this one real close.
You can do it, Andy. You can do it. I believe in you.
I didn't practice this level whatsoever. That's why I'm, you know. This is improv.
Yeah.
Although I do love Clint. I've been playing him for a while now. So it's great. Thank you, Hulk. You will fight Maestro, but we're gonna leave. We're not gonna show that whatsoever during the stream.
We're bold, but we're not that bold.
Yeah, no. I think Nicole Keanu wrote like a lot of the Maestro's lines and everything, right?
Yeah, he wrote a lot of this story, pretty much all of it. I'm just gonna give him credit for all of it.
Aww. Is he watching?
Yeah, he probably.
Hi, Keanu.
So everybody say hi. Yeah, he did a lot of this, and it really turned out great.
Yeah.
He wrote some fantastic, especially like just Clint's lines. He cracks me up all the time.
Oh, this is a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That was really fun to work on those spaces. And this is actually a good example of, so it's a new biome, absolutely. It's basically like a layer on top of what you've seen in Utah with, of course, a lot of new assets. But that's the kind of thing that we can do while we're preparing completely new biomes, which obviously is something we're working on. I'm not allowed to talk about, already in trouble. But it was really fun to do this because I feel like it makes a really cool, makes a good visual difference, and it's fun to go in a new space and see some new stories. And no, Rifkin, I don't model anything. I could barely draw a stick figure. That's not an exaggeration either.
Oops.
Yeah, I'm a designer, not an artist.
Well, AJ's here.
AJ's kind of an artist.
It's a good point. I can animate, but I'm not the best at drawing. I can do like the stick figures to get lines of actions and like squash and stretch represented. But once you start going into like 3D form and perspective, it gets a little messy. That's okay. That's why I'm an animator.
I had someone in a past stream ask how hard it is to animate so many characters and like what's the nuances from doing that. I think you already talked about this, but I was playing at the same time, so I couldn't hear. But did you talk about that yet, AJ?
Not really. No, we more talked about just Kate and Hawkeye.
Okay.
That's actually a good question. What's it like to animate all of the different heroes, basically?
And like your favorite part, I think it was Anna Arian asked that like a while ago, and I was like, you know what? I'll get an animator in here.
That's a really good question. I mean, it's awesome. It's just really challenging, basically. You want them all to feel really unique, but as Swalter said, they're all on like a similar backbone, so to speak. So it's just, it's just a constant challenge. You sit there and you figure out what makes them them, essentially, and then how to capture that in 3D space. So again, mocap actors, are very helpful, and that's why we leverage them, because they have natural movement in their body, and we all move differently. So there's a lot of intricacies there. But yeah, high level, I'd say, is challenging, and it's also a lot of fun. So it is kind of what keeps the job fresh, so to speak, because it's almost a new challenge every time you come to a new hero.
Nice. I know you guys did not see me.
With your accuracy, Andy.
I usually aim with like a mouse and keyboard, so aiming with a controller is a little unfamiliar with me.
Excuses.
I know it is really excuses. You guys didn't see that though, okay? None of you saw that.
So a lot of people are asking if you can show the menu and if we're going to show some Clint skins.
We are not going to show Clint skins. We showed a lot of them on social media already, but we do want some of them to be surprises for you guys to discover. But we are going to show another Clint skin over the weekend. So look out on our channels for that. But we showed Ronin, we showed Time Lost, Ultimate, Iron Eye, this one Day Off, Iconic, and we're going to show another one tomorrow on social. So, yeah. What was your other question, Phil? I don't even remember it.
The menu, like the different menus. Well, because I think people saw the character screen at the beginning, so I think that's what they were referring to. But we already showed it.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the helicarrier.
You get a different character lineup.
Oh yeah.
And a different background. That looks pretty cool.
And yes, Hawkeye has his own loading screen. We always put those in there. Since we're at like 3 o'clock, this might be the end, or close to the end, as I travel to the helicarrier.
I think so.
Yep, here we are. I'm gonna center the camera a little bit so you know Mr. Clinton is right in the middle. And we are going to we're not gonna show Lucky. Is Lucky actually here? No.
I love how you say it and ask a question.
I know.
If you're asking me, I'm gonna tell you exactly where Lucky is. Then we'll both get in trouble.
I don't think he's
Phil's on a roll today.
Yeah, no, Lucky's not in this. I mean, I know where he is, but he's not in. Yeah. That's for you guys to explore. It is less than a week. Let me actually switch over to the correct screen. Although our positioning might be like...
Oh yeah, and when you play the Wasteland, everybody acts surprised like we didn't show it to you on the stream. That way, it stays in the family. No one gets in trouble.
Yeah, so you guys, all you streamers, when you get to that Wasteland level, you're going to be like, wow, I've never seen this before. Right? Yeah? Okay. What Wasteland?
Everybody practice your surprise face.
Yeah, there we go. What Wasteland? What is this?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Part of me let me see if this host with screens is okay. No, we're gonna have to do this just talking to you guys. So thank you guys for coming. That's the end of this. We're gonna go around the circle. Scott, anything you want to say to the community watching?
I hope you guys really enjoy the combat for Hawkeye.
AJ.
Yeah, echo what he said. We put a lot of time into him. We hope you really enjoy him, and he feels kick ass. Hopefully that's not too much of a curse word. Oh well, I said it.
Whoa. You can't just say ass willy-nilly on stream.
And then I guess just, stay with us on the journey of this game as we continue to move forward. We hear all the feedback, and we're trying to make that same game that everybody wants and hopes it can be. So just stay with us. We're all in it to win it. So
yeah, Nicole.
Yeah, there's a lot of care and attention put into this pack, and we're really excited for everyone to get to play it so we can actually talk about spoilers. I hope you all go pet Lucky because he's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
The bestest, the goodest boy. Phil.
Super excited for you guys to play all that new content. Obviously, we're working on a lot more. I'm even more excited to tell you guys about all the new things that are coming, and some of that you'll actually hear about in the near future. I hate to say near future, but nobody allows me to say that. Anyways, you'll hear about cool new stuff soon, so I'm stoked. enjoy the Wastelands, and I know there's a bunch of burning questions on Reddit and all that stuff, so we're working on getting you guys some answers. So I know it's taking a little bit of time, but we want to make sure we get all that stuff right. So you're heard. Even if we haven't gotten through everything, just know that we're working on it and we're trying to get you the information that you want. So we're on it.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We're going to sign off now, but reminder, Hawkeye, Future Imperfect, Next Gen, Campaign Replay, Custom Harm Rooms. We didn't show that today, but you guys can explore that yourself for customized Harm Rooms. On the 18th, that is next Thursday. Well, I guess it's technically this Thursday, right? I don't know. Depends on how you guys talk about your weeks. I don't know. Tune into Square Enix Presents on the 18th, and we'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you so much.
Later, guys.
See ya. Thanks.
Bye.